Welcome back to the Wandering Pilgrims podcast, where we explore the lives of remarkable figures who shaped Christian history. Today, we're diving into the life of Matthew Henry, pastor, scholar, and author of one of the most beloved Bible commentaries ever written. Born in 1662, Matthew Henry lived during a tumultuous yet vibrant era, leaving a legacy that still resonates with believers today. Join me as we uncover his story, the world he lived in, and the enduring impact of his work. Matthew Henry entered the world on October 18, 1662, in a farmhouse called Broad Oak, located on the border of Flintshire, Wales, and Shropshire, England, not strictly in Flintshire as sometimes noted, but a liminal space reflecting his Welsh-English heritage. He was born prematurely, a fragile infant who faced frequent fevers in childhood. Yet, from the start, he was surrounded by faith. His father, Philip Henry, was a Church of England cleric until August 1662, when the Act of Uniformity changed everything. This law, passed just 2 months before Matthew's birth, required all clergy to conform to the Book of Common Prayer or face ejection. Philip Henry, a Puritan at heart, refused joining over 2,000 nonconformist ministers expelled in what's known as the Great Ejection. Fortunately, Philip had some private means, likely from his wife Catherine's family, which allowed him to homeschool Matthew and provide a robust education. By age 3, Matthew was reading the Bible distinctly, an astonishing feat that hints at his intellectual gifts. By 9, he was writing Latin and tackling parts of the Greek New Testament, thanks to his father's rigorous tutoring and a brief stint with a family friend, William Turner, in 1668. This was no ordinary childhood. It was a crucible of learning and piety shaped by a family under the cross of religious persecution. In 1680, at 18, Matthew headed to London to study at Thomas Doolittle's Nonconformist Academy in Islington, then a village just outside the city. Nonconformists like Matthew were barred from Oxford and Cambridge after 1662, so these academies became vital hubs for dissenting education. Under Doolittle, a Presbyterian scholar, Matthew honed his theological skills. But persecution forced the academy to relocate in 1682, and he returned home. For a time, he studied law at Gray's Inn in London, starting in 1685, perhaps as a practical fallback. Yet his heart was elsewhere. A sermon by his father on Psalm 51 verse 17, "The sacrifices of God are a broken spirit," sparked his conversion as a teen, and soon he was preaching informally. By 1687, at age 24, Matthew's calling crystallized. Ordained by Presbyterian ministers in London, he took up the pastorate of a small congregation in Chester, Cheshire. His expository preaching, clear, practical, and rooted in Scripture, drew crowds. Under his leadership, the congregation outgrew its space, leading to the construction of a new meeting house in 1699. Matthew wasn't just a preacher, he was a shepherd building a community of faith in a time of religious tension. That same year, 1687, Matthew married Catherine Hardware, but their joy was short-lived. In 1689, Catherine died in childbirth, along with their child, a devastating blow. Yet, in 1690, he found love again with Mary Warburton, a woman of deep faith. Together, they had 9 children, 1 son and 8 daughters, though tragedy struck again with 3 daughters dying in infancy. Despite these losses, Matthew's resilience shone through, grounded in the faith he preached. His personal trials didn't dim his ministry. For 25 years, he served in Chester, preaching up to 7 times a week, visiting prisoners and holding meetings in nearby towns like Wrexham and Beeston. His health, however, was fragile, plagued by kidney stones and, later, diabetes. Still, he pressed on, a testament to his unwavering commitment. In 1704, Matthew began his magnum opus, the exposition of the Old and New Testaments. This 6-volume commentary, launched in 1708, offered a verse-by-verse exploration of Scripture covering the entire Old Testament and the Gospels through Acts by the time of his death. After he passed, 13 nonconformist ministers completed it, using his notes, with a final edit in 1811 by George Berder and John Hughes. What makes it timeless? Its clarity, practical application, and theological depth. Giants like George Whitefield, who read it 4 times, once on his knees, and Charles Spurgeon, who urged every minister to study it, cherished its wisdom. Then, in 1712, just before leaving Chester for Hackney, London, Matthew published A Method for Prayer. This book distilled a lifetime of devotion into a scriptural guide: adoration, confession, petition, thanksgiving, intercession, showing believers how to pray with intention and biblical grounding. It's a resource still treasured today. In 1712, Matthew moved to Mare Street, Hackney, to pastor a congregation of about 100, a smaller flock, but a strategic move near his publisher as the exposition neared completion. He preached almost daily, even traveling to nearby areas like Wapping and Rotherhithe. But his health declined. In 1713, nephritis, kidney inflammation, struck repeatedly. On June 21, 1714, while returning from a preaching tour in Chester, he stopped in Nantwich, too ill to continue. The next morning, a stroke, recorded as apoplexy, took his life at age 51. His final words to a friend? "A life spent in the service of God and communion with Him is the most pleasant life that anyone can live in this world." Matthew Henry's influence rippled far beyond 1714. His commentary shaped Reformed theology, inspiring Whitefield's revival preaching and Spurgeon's pulpit power. His work remains a cornerstone for Christians seeking to understand and live out Scripture. Let's zoom out. Matthew lived in a dynamic, often chaotic age. In England, the restoration of Charles II in 1660 brought stability but also religious clampdowns like the Act of Uniformity. Across the Atlantic, the Massachusetts Bay Colony was grappling with its Puritan identity, while in France, Louis XIV's revocation of the Edict of Nantes in 1685 forced Huguenots to flee. The 1688 Glorious Revolution ousted James II, ushering in William and Mary and more toleration. Too late for Philip Henry, but a shift Matthew witnessed. In 1707, the Act of Union united England and Scotland, shaping Britain's future just as Matthew wrote his commentary. His contemporaries? In England, Isaac Watts was crafting hymns, while John Bunyan, dying in 1688, left Pilgrim's Progress as a literary echo. Across Europe, Johann Sebastian Bach was a child prodigy by 1700, and in the colonies, Cotton Mather wrestled with faith and science. These voices, like Matthew's, spoke into a world of change, war, exploration, and enlightenment stirring the air. Matthew Henry's life was a tapestry of faith, loss, and scholarship woven into a world on the brink of modernity. His words still guide us, urging us to pray earnestly, study deeply, and live faithfully. Thank you for joining us here at the Wandering Pilgrims. If you have enjoyed this episode and would like to help us create more like it, please consider supporting our efforts through Buy Me a Coffee, Patreon, and our shop. You can also find other resources and graphics about Matthew Henry and others we cover here on our website, Instagram, and Facebook. You can find all of those links in the description.